Author Dr. Sheila Brooks is here to fill us in on Lucile H. Bluford.
The voice for social justice and a true heroine of the U.S. civil rights movement.
So excited to have you in studio today.
It's good to be here. Thank you both for enjoying and inviting me.
I am so impressed with you and so inspired. I feel like this woman just conquers every world she enters in.
This book grew out of a dissertation that I did for a PhD 3 years ago at Howard University. And I was looking for an African-American woman in the media who not only wrote in the media, but was a media owner. And when I looked in the last decade or two, it was like, okay, there's only a couple of women, but when I went back 50 and 100 years, I saw that there were several women that had not been recognized that owned the black press. We're so often go to the mainstream media because that's what we know. But she owned the newspaper, the Kansas City Call, right here in Kansas City, Missouri, and worked there for over 70 years and worked from a reporter to editor and publisher when she bought it in 1983.
Lucile Bluford was a well-respected editor and publisher of the Kansas City Call, an important African-American weekly newspaper. She was also a brave and persistent civil rights activist. In both her personal life and career, she refused to remain quiet about racial injustice. Miss Bluford's long life success stemmed from the early influences of her supportive family and quality education. Born Lucile Harris Bluford on July 1, 1911, in Salisbury, North Carolina, to parents John and Viola, she remembered reading as an important part of her early life. Her father, a professor at a North Carolina agriculture and technical university, read the newspaper from cover to cover every day. And as a child, Miss Bluford would sit on a swing and read all day long. After her mother's death in 1915, Miss Bluford went to live with her grandmother, Mariah Harris, while her brothers, John Jr. and Guion, moved in with other relatives. She was quite close to her grandmother, who she said taught me everything I knew. In 1918, John Bluford and his new wife, Addie, and Miss Bluford's brothers moved west to Kansas City. John became a science teacher at an all-black Lincoln High School, where he taught for more than 25 years. Miss Bluford joined her family in 1921 at the age of 10 and attended Wendell Phillips Elementary and Lincoln High. She demonstrated an early passion for journalism and civic engagement as a member of her high school newspaper and yearbook staffs, the student chapter of the NAACP, and the student council. After school, she often spent time on 18th and Vine Streets at the offices of the Kansas City Call, the black newspaper founded by Chester A. Franklin in 1919 that would become the focus of Miss Bluford's long career. Like other black newspapers in Kansas City and across the country, the Call provided a critical alternative to white-owned papers that generally ignored the African American community. Racial discrimination in Missouri's public universities prevented Miss Bluford from going to the University of Missouri in Columbia's prestigious journalism school. Instead, she enrolled at the University of Kansas in September 1928 and quickly proved her talents as a reporter and editor. Miss Bluford credited Marie Ross, the first minority student to graduate from KU's School of Journalism and a future Call section editor, with helping white students and teachers understand the importance of the black press. Though Miss Bluford's classmates supported her and even nominated her for membership in the KU chapter of the Journalism Honor Sorority, national officers denied her admission based on her race. Miss Bluford worked at the Call each summer during college, but after graduation in 1932, she moved to Atlanta and began writing for the Daily World. Homesick and repelled by Atlanta's strict public segregation, she soon returned to Kansas City, where she briefly worked for the Kansas City American before joining the Call as a cub reporter. For From the beginning, she preferred writing hard-hitting news and political stories, and published many of her more controversial pieces under the pseudonym Louis Blue. The Great Depression of the 1930s left the Call with little money to live on, but careful bookkeeping and the leadership of Chester A. Franklin kept the paper afloat. Miss Bluford's tireless work ethic and devotion to the Call, even in these hard times, helped her move up the ranks to become managing editor by 1938. In 1939, Miss Bluford applied to the University of Missouri's graduate program in journalism. She had a successful career at the Call and didn't need further training, but she saw an opportunity to challenge segregation in public universities. She had reason to hope for admission, since the previous year the U.S. Supreme Court had ruled that the University of Missouri of Law must admit St. Louisian Lloyd Gaines or establish a law school at all-black Lincoln University. Though the MU journalism program accepted Miss Bluford based on mailed transcripts, when she showed up to enroll, officials saw she was black and denied her entrance. With the support of the NAACP, Miss Bluford sued the university. In 1940, her case reached the Missouri Supreme Court, which ruled in State XL Bluford v. Canada that the university had until February 1941 to establish a journalism program at Lincoln. At the time Miss Bluford attempted to enroll, African American students were expected to attend all-black Lincoln University in Jefferson, Missouri, 30 miles away from the Columbia, Missouri University campus. Lincoln University did not have a journalism program. By 1941, citing low attendance because of World War II, the University of Missouri subsequently closed its journalism graduate program. Nonetheless, the case prompted the opening of the School of Journalism at Lincoln University. She continued applying unsuccessfully to the University of Missouri's Superior program, and neither she nor Gaines chose to attend the new professional schools at Lincoln. The courts may have upheld separate but equal education, but these cases received national attention as milestones on the way to educational desegregation. In May 1954, the United States Supreme Court ruled unanimously against segregation in Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka. Call editor Chester A. Franklin passed away in 1955, leaving Miss Bluford to take on the position she would hold until the end of her life. From its founding, the Call had covered the struggles and triumphs of the African American community. Miss Bluford became editor at a pivotal moment in history of the civil rights movement, and she maintained the paper's original mission to draw people together in the fight against racism. Over the course of the next 5 decades, Miss Bluford and the newspaper she led took a decisive stand on hundreds of important issues. Miss Bluford's editorial supported the boycott of local department store lunchrooms that prohibited black patrons, mourned the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the subsequent civil unrest, and supported the election of Kansas City's first African-American congressman, Allen Wheat, and first African-American mayor, Emanuel Cleaver II. Whatever the issue, Black and white Kansas Cityans knew they could find accurate information and thoughtful opinions in Miss Bluford's words. The University of Missouri honored Lucile Bluford with an honorary doctorate degree in 1989. The university also named Bluford Resident Hall in her honor in 2018. The state of Missouri recognizes July 1st as Lucile Bluford Day to honor her contributions to journalism to the state. In 2002, Bluford received the Kansas City of the Year award from the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. Bluford also received a Distinguished Service Award from the NAACP, from whom she served on its board and the board of magazine The Crisis. Through her bold stance, her determination to expose racism, and her clear and forceful journalistic writing, Lucile Bluford helped change the way African Americans are treated, especially in the area of higher education. She died in Kansas City on June 13, 2003, at the age of 91, having worked at the Call for 70 years. She is buried in Forest Hills Cemetery in Kansas City.
Thank you.